Hey everyone, welcome to WittCode, where in this video we're going to learn how to use JavaScript getters and setters. So JavaScript consists of two property types, data properties and accessor properties. Data properties are properties that associate data with an object, so it's basically just the one that we always use. So say we have a person object here, this right here is a data property. Next, accessor properties are methods to get and set the property of an object, and these properties are made with the keywords get and set. So now if we change our person object like this right here is an accessor property, and same with this right here. So we have our data property and our accessor property, which uses the keyword set or the keyword get. So what are set and get? So we know that they're accessor properties, and what they're used for is to change and access the value of a property in an object. The get syntax, so this right here, binds an object property to a function that is called when the property is looked up. The set syntax binds an object property to a function that is called when the property is set. In other words, set right here is used to execute a function whenever the property's value changes. So whenever first name property of this person object changes, we will call this function, while get right here is used to execute a function whenever a property's value is looked up. So if we access or look up the first name property, this function will be called. So let's first demonstrate these by just simply accessing this first name property. So say down here, we have person.firstname is WittCode, and we log out the first name. So when we set first name here, it'll call this, and then when we access this property right here, it'll call this. So let's just run this, which is get and set. We can see when we set the first name equal to WittCode, it'll pass in this value here, and it'll say set this.greeting equal to WittCode is my first name. And then when we call it here, it'll append on and don't call me. So WittCode is my first name and don't call me. We can also, let me just give you another example where this could be useful for, say you have a property that is an array. So say now we change our code so that we have a favefoods property, which is an array, and then we have a set favefood and a get favefood. If we call person.favefood equal to cereal, then cheese and pizza, it'll call this favefood method, which just pushes it to this array. Then when we access the favefood property, it'll call this function because it's a getter. And what it does is it makes a message saying my favefoods are. It just loops through and appends each one. So if we run this again, we get my favefoods are cereal, cheese, pizza, all done with the magic of get and set. And just real quick, if you noticed in this first one, for example, I'm setting the greeting with a property first name. If we say, for example, set this to first name and called this, we would get an infinite loop. So we get maximum call stack size exceeded, because if we keep setting this in here, it'll keep recalling this function over and over again. So that's set and get with just a basic object. But the most of the time you use this will be with a class. So let's do a demonstration now using class syntax. So say we have the class person, and we have a private property name, and it's private by this because of this hashtag right here. What we do is we use set to set this private name property to whatever's provided. And then when we use access the name property, once again it calls this, and it'll return hello my name is with the private variable. So let's once again just see what this looks like. So if we run this code, we create a new person object, we set the name, which will set this dot name, the private version, to what we provided, which is WittCode. And then when it logs it out, it'll call this, hello, my name is WittCode. Once again, done with get and set, which are simply triggered by just setting the property and accessing the property. And then let me just show you another example of maybe a situation that could be useful for using this. Say we add some logic in here. So now we just have a second property age, which essentially we have a setter, which just sets it. And then we have a getter, which will check the age value and using some logic determine if you are an adult or not. So if we run this, now we get hello, my name is WittCode, and I am an adult. So we set the age property, but we never actually access it directly. When we do here, what's returned isn't the age property, but rather just a string. So now we might wonder, why would we use get and set? So the main reason for using getters and setters is to secure better data quality. And this means that we know where the values of objects are being set and retrieved from. So if we see that the age property, when it's being called, if we're wondering where this is coming from, we know it's going to be from the getter. Or if we're setting, say person.name set it equal to something, we know it's in the format that it's in because of the setter. So you could use it to do something such as uppercase everything that's set in a setter, or lowercase, or put something in a format that you want it to be in. And also, using setter and getter, we can abstract away some underlying logic when properties are set or retrieved, which is kind of like what we did here. We can use simpler syntax, and we can make the syntax for both properties and methods the same. And what this means is, say back to our example here, if we wanted to just say we wanted to call this get first name like this, and we set it equal to a function. If we wanted to call it, we would have to call it like a function, so like this. Whereas if we're using a getter and setter, you call it the exact same way that you would if you were setting the property. It would just be dot first name. But so that's all there really is to getters and setters. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll try to get back to you. Besides that, I want to thank you for liking and subscribing today. And if you want to support me, please consider downloading my Chrome extension called WittCode. Link is in the description. But besides that, thank you and have a good one.